folks, today we're talking about my 10 favorite superhero games. Now in this I'm talking about superheroes with powers, and I'm being very specific that I'm talking about like da 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 da. I actually debated about putting Rhino Hero on the list. Rhino Hero is a card stacking game which is a lot of fun, and there is a Rhino superhero jumping up the things. I don't know, you can argue. I would have probably put it on my list if I thought that was including that one. Now superheroes, if I had done this list 10 years ago, I would have had like 1 or 2, maybe 3 at the most. Superhero games just it's hard to make a game about superheroes because games have rules and it's hard to put superpowers and stuff into rules. But in the past 5 years, wow, plethora of these games has shown up. I still don't think there's enough of them, and you'll notice that my list is very Marvel/DC heavy, maybe more Marvel than DC, but I just like these universes. I like the whole idea of superheroes. It's always been a big thing of mine, so I would love to redo this list in 5 years and have completely new games on it. So here we go. Number 10 is Marvel Heroes. Now, when Marvel Heroes was first announced, our minds were like, what is this game going to be like? Because it was designed by the same team that had done War of the Ring, and War of the Ring was just, wow, this is the Lord of the Rings in a box. Well, Marvel Heroes was not quite so much. It was New York City, and you each controlled a team of heroes, and you controlled a villain. So like maybe someone controls the X-Men, and I might control Magneto, who's going after that. And the other villains would show up over the course of the city. It had some painted miniatures. It had lots of great artwork. The game itself was very good. Now, it really pales besides many other games in this list, but it was a good start. It was a little long and slightly fiddly, but you would go around and, trying to accomplish your missions while another player would be actively trying to stop you. Number 9 is the Justice League strategy game. This one is a cooperative game where you control different people from the Justice League trying to stop the villains and trying to move around to different things, use your powers, have villains come and fight these villains and eventually stop the main big bad villain. Nothing exactly groundbreaking or new in the cooperative universe, but it is one that I thought really still was a good solid game, and hey, it felt like I was playing a DC comic game. Number 8 is another DC one. This is Batman Arkham City. Now in this one, each player was one of the Batman's villains. Batman was a real pain in the neck in this game because you're trying to control and grow an empire in the city, and you do so by slowly expanding your grip, but Batman will show up and constantly cause problems for you. You actually want him to go after the other guys if possible. A solid game from WizKids. If you've never tried this one out, check it out. Number 7, we're still in the DC universe, and it's the Justice League Hero Dice. Now this one I debated putting it on my list because many of you who live in America have no chance to get this one, but this is a cooperative game in which one person plays Batman or Superman. They just released, I think, Green Lantern and the Flash. And you play these, and you have different dice, and you're rolling these dice, working together to stop bad guys, and trying to use the symbols on your dice. It's almost like cooperative Yahtzee in a sense against heroes. But it looks beautiful. The theme works pretty well. It's also extremely hard. That's Justice League Hero Dice. Number 6, still in the DC universe, is Batman Gotham City. This is a 2-player game where one person is playing Batman, who has a utility belt full of tricks and things, and the other person is playing a bunch of villains. And you're on a rooftop, and you're fighting each other back and forth, and it's very asymmetrical because there's the villains have a bunch of different characters. Batman's not even sure who they are until he gets closer. Batman has all these cool tricks and things that he can pull off. Neat game. Another one that most people don't talk about, but that's Batman Gotham City. Number 5 is an older game. Let's jump back to the Marvel Universe, or DC Universe, or Image Universe, because they were all together in Overpower. Overpower was a collectible card game. It's actually the first collectible card game that I played. I played this before Magic and Star Wars and all the other ones, and I loved it. You know what? I played it recently, and it still holds up pretty well. Now, in the meta game and in the cards themselves, there's some fairly unbalanced cards. But the game itself, where you had 3 people in the front, 1 person in reserve, and you were fighting on missions, and it had a little bit of bidding, like you would look at your hand and say, how well am I going to do this round? And if you had a bad hand, you might only wager 1 mission, but you might wager 4 missions if you felt pretty strong. But if you did that, you gave your opponents 2 more cards, which just might be enough to have them win instead of you. Fascinating little game. And like I said, it felt very superpowery. Each of the heroes had different special cards, and they had made a great set of Marvel. They added an IQ to it later on, a fourth stat. Then they made DC version, which was terrible. I mean, it was decent, but they were underpowered compared to the Marvel. So then they overcompensated by making the image expansion, by making them way more powerful than everybody else. So it's kind of a mess at the end. But there is a group online that still makes cards for this, and people still play it, and I still like it. Overpower. Number 4 is Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is, I think, the only game on my list that is not themed in the Marvel or DC universes, but that does not matter. And I wish more games like this came out, where Greater Than Games basically made their own superheroes. Now, some of them are very obvious, kind of a version of them. Like, there's one that's obviously an Iron Man and so on and so forth. But still, really cool to have these unique characters. And it was another cooperative game. Superheroes work well cooperatively, where you're fighting a bad guy, and you would kind of sit there with your own deck of cards and figuring out how you were going to fight this bad guy. And the whole thing worked really well together as you tried to stop this. It's a little fiddly at times, and I hear the app is like almost makes it obsolete, but I still have a lot of fun playing it. Still on my shelf, Sentinels of the Multiverse. Number 3 is Marvel Legendary. Now, Marvel Legendary is another cooperative. It's a deck building game. It is close to being a better game than it is superhero, but I don't care, because you get to play pretty much every hero in the Marvel universe right now in this game, and villain and stuff. And you can even play as the villains in certain situations. There's so many combinations. We're talking into trillions of combinations at this point. A lot of fun, though, as you play on. Let's take Spider-Man, Punisher, The Thing, and Professor X up against, Mysterio, and just see what combinations that leads to. I'm going to take some of the Guardians of the Galaxy, etc. They keep publishing. They're publishing so many sets for this that they're really delving into the corners of the Marvel universe. They just came out with Marvel Noir, but still some really neat stuff here. I love this game. That's Marvel Legendary. Number 2. Now, some people are going to say I should have put HeroClix on this list, and possibly. I haven't played it that much, but it is an excellent game, and it really does a good job at pretty much being able to play any superhero you want. So the different clicks systems from WizKids. But I put HeroScape on here, and you say, what? HeroScape is fantasy and stuff. Well, they made a Marvel HeroScape set, which allowed you to take them, and I loved it because it was like HeroClix, but it was simple and easy to run into and jump and do these things. And what I really enjoyed about the Marvel HeroScape was that the community people went online and they went insane. They made a cajillion characters. I have so many different characters. I just take the Marvel HeroScape characters or HeroClix characters, and you can play them on the board, and people make all sorts of abilities, and they're balanced and they're wonderful, and you can play DC and you can play Marvel. It's fantastic. So this was kind of a cheat. But they actually did make the Marvel HeroScape. They were supposed to make more, but they didn't, because boo to you, Hasbro. All right, my favorite superhero game, no surprise anyone who knows me, is Dice Masters. Love Dice Masters. A takeoff of the Warriors dice pool building system, mixing that with a bit of Magic the Gathering inside it. Just the whole thing was a really neat combo, and it's Marvel and DC. There's also Dungeons and Dragons and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Yu-Gi-Oh! But the Marvel and the DC stuff, I can have Batman and Superman on my team. I can take, and with Spider-Man and Doctor Doom, and there's so many different characters, and their special abilities come through, and it's, again, just like Marvel Legendary, probably a better game than it is a simulation of superheroism, but the superhero theme still comes through strong, and I love this game. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So, those are my 10 favorite superhero games. You might have other ones that I did not mention. Let us know in the comments what your favorite ones are. Unless you're going to talk about the DC deck building game, because that's garbage. No, I know a lot of people like it, just not for me. But anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been the Dice Tower Best Superhero Games Ever.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.